So now let's talk about the causes. Why
Why?
people go into
Well, the major one, since I will be talking around the school environment, because that's where I do my work.
practice, yeah.
I practice. Number one is peer pressure. You see a student coming to school, good, everything from a good background, but you are put in a room where you have people that are older than you, and then you see them do these things, and then they lure you into doing it. That's what we call peer pressure. Your peers pressure you into doing it. That's number one. Then secondly, we have some of them do it for cultism. For you to be a cultist, you must do something that is beyond you, so to speak. And before they go out to do this, carry out this kind of activities, they want to take drugs. Some do it. The ladies that do this, some are into prostitution. So they want to be in another world so that they can be able to carry out their act. So we have peer pressure. We have environment as an environmental factor. We have, there are so many, but those are the ones that are most common because it's, and then location, like I said, the location of where your school is or where you are schooling matters. So I've talked about cannabis, I've talked about cocaine, talked about heroin, talked about shisha, so those are the common ones that are abused. If your school is close to, is in the city, where you have nightclubs, students go out, you can't restrict their movement. They go out to nightclubs and then they take shisha. If it's located in the rural area, cannabis is easily acceptable. So the environmental factor will determine the drugs that will be abused. But the ones I've listed are the drugs that are easily abused in this part of the world.
Okay, so now let's talk about the signs and symptoms of addiction.
Okay, the first sign that parents should look out for is you send the child to school and the child is back home on holidays and the child is withdrawn. Child that's usually very active, very sociable, they are usually withdrawn. That's the first sign. That we call it withdrawal syndrome. They are always in their rooms. They just come out, eat, and go back to their rooms. You won't really know what they do indoors. Because you find out that there's a problem. So once you notice that from a child, then you have to start suspecting withdrawal syndrome. Then some of them loss of appetite. Because of what these drugs that they take, it makes them lose appetite. So you find out a child that was eating well is no longer eating well. Then sudden weight loss. Sudden weight loss is also a symptom. A child loses weight drastically. Those are things that you... Then sometimes they sleep a lot. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., a child that normally wakes up to do things, do chores around in the house. 7, 8 a.m. in the morning, they are still sleeping. Those are signs you have to look out for. Then sometimes some of them become aggressive. Some of them become aggressive. You know, somebody that you know before he went to school is calm, is easygoing. Now he's back from school on holidays, he becomes aggressive. So these are signs and symptoms. Some signs and symptoms that you look out for.
Okay, so now let's talk about the physical and psychological effects.
Yeah, physical, I just said.
Loss of weight?
Yes, loss of weight, you can see that. Loss of weight, yes, that's physical, you can see that. Then psychological, like I said, the child is withdrawn. That's psychological. He's withdrawn from people. Usually the friendly type, but he's now on his own. Most times they're in their rooms. They don't even mingle with the family members, not to talk of being sociable. So they are easily withdrawn to themselves. Once you see that, it's a sign that something is wrong. So you need to call the child and then you start doing, that's the next stage we'll go to, which is therapy. So once you have been able to identify these signs and symptoms, then you go to the next stage where you now sit them down and then you counsel. So that's why in issues that has to do with drug abuse, drug addiction, you don't bully the child, you don't shout at the child. First, you have to look for the root cause. And all these things come by counseling and talking with the child. You find out that majority of them, like we said, the first thing is peer pressure. So that's why we find out that parents even go to the extent of wanting to know who their roommates are in school. But most times, some of these students stay off campus, so you won't really know who their roommates are off campus. But if it's in school, then you can be sure that you know one or two of their roommates. So they do that. So peer pressure is majorly a factor that has to be looked into. So for therapy, normally prescribing drug is not even the best. First thing is talking and talking and talking. So you get to sit with them and talk with them. Then if you can't as a parent, then you refer them to a therapist, a drug therapist, a psychiatrist, that's the person in charge of drugs, and then a doctor, first and foremost, a doctor that is knowledgeable with psychology and then psychiatry. So those are the people you talk with. And then they are the ones that will now recommend drugs. But it will get to a stage where drugs will come in. That one will just be, after talking and counseling them, the drug will now be to detoxify the body. Of course, we know the agent in the body, or the organ in the body is the liver. Okay? That takes care of all the toxins that are produced by the long-term effect of these drugs. So there will be drug that will help to detoxify the body. And then, of course, the person will come out of it. So most times, therapy is usually talking and counseling. And then if, as a parent, you can't do that, then the child will need to see a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist.
Okay, so